Hi, this video is going to be on Unit 4, Activity 3, and it's the content page is going to be broken up into 3 parts. And so if we start with Part 1, it's labeled Types of Sentences. So this semester we've looked a lot at sentence writing and different types of grammar elements, and we're going to kind of put that together here near the ending of the course, and we're going to look at 4 different types of sentences. And it's important when you're writing, especially as you start improving and trying to write more than just basic simple sentences, it's important that you know the 4 different types. And so we start with simple sentences. So a simple sentence is a sentence that just has a subject and a verb, and it's just one complete thought that can stand by itself. So the baby cried for food. You know, the baby is a subject. Cried is a verb. You've got everything you need for a basic sentence. Simple sentences can be very short. They don't have to be, but you can have very short sentences that just have a subject and a verb, and that's fine. It's a complete sentence. What we can do, though, is we can take simple sentences and expand on them and make them more detailed and make them more creative. And we can start doing that by creating something called a compound sentence. And a compound sentence has 2 independent clauses, so basically two complete sentences that are joined together. So it's basically a compound sentence is basically 2 simple sentences joined together with one of our fanboys, if you remember the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And so if we take a look, we've got the shoplifter had stolen clothes, so he ran once he saw the police. So the shoplifter had stolen clothes is a complete independent clause. It's a complete thought. He ran once he saw the police is a second complete thought. So you have verbs and subjects in both clauses there. And then you have one of the fanboys, so, and also a comma, because you have 2 independent clauses here. You have a so in between your 2 independent clauses, and that creates a compound sentence. So that's one way that you can expand your sentences and make them a little bit more varied and creative. Another type of sentence you can create is a complex sentence. And a complex sentence joins an independent clause or a complete thought with 1 or more dependent clauses or incomplete thoughts. And usually in a complex sentence, you would see what we call a dependent clause cue. If you remember, we talked about them going all the way back to Unit 1. And some examples of dependent clause cues are as, because, since, after, although, when. There's lots of other dependent clause cues as well, too. But they start incomplete thoughts. Okay. You can also sometimes have a complex sentence with what they call a relative pronoun, a word like who, that, which. And so if we take a look, we have, after eating lunch at the Cheesecake Factory, Tim went to the gym to exercise. So Tim went to the gym to exercise is an independent clause. It can stand alone as its own sentence. After eating lunch at the Cheesecake Factory isn't. It's a dependent clause. It's got a subject and a verb, but it doesn't have a complete thought. So if we join a dependent clause with an independent clause, we have a complex sentence. So again, we're just trying to write more detailed sentences here. And then lastly, the most complicated sentence is something called a compound complex sentence. And a compound complex sentence has 2 independent clauses and at least 1 dependent clause. And so if we take a look, after the 2 soccer stars lost their game, that's a dependent clause. So we've got our 1 dependent clause. They joined their other teammates for lunch. So that's an independent clause. We've got 1. And they went to the movies. They went to the movies is another independent clause. So we've got dependent, independent, independent, and the 2 independent are joined by a comma and an and so we've got a compound complex sentence. If you want, you can click right here and it'll give you a review of those 4 types of sentences. It's an interactive activity where a young girl, where a cartoon young girl explains how the sentences work. So you can take a look at that if you like. But when you feel ready, try the practice. And in the practice, you're just going to go through 8 sentences and you're going to identify, is it a simple sentence, complex, compound, or compound complex? And just you can label after each one which one you think it is, and then you can click on answers and you can see the answers for the 8 sentences. There is a second practice, types of sentences exercise, again, where you're going to have to identify the 4 different types of sentences. So if you want some extra practice, it's right here. Okay. What else do we have? We have combining sentences. So this is a little exercise or some examples and then an exercise on how you can start building simple sentences into complex and compound complex sentences. So we've got an example here. Combine the following 3 simple sentences into one effective simple sentence. So you can take these 3 basic sentences and you can condense them into one simple sentence that's better, that's got more detail. Okay? You can take these 3 simple sentences and turn them into a more specific, a better written compound sentence. So not only are we condensing and writing sentences that are more that are less wordy, that don't repeat the same ideas and don't have needless words, but we're also writing adding more variety into our sentences. So we're really improving our writing if we can turn 3 simple sentences into, for example, a compound sentence. And then another example here, combine the following 3 sentences into a complex sentence. And so we would take these 3 ideas, these 3 basic complete thoughts, and see if we can put it into one complex sentence. And again, it's just practice to see if you can write different types of sentences and add variety to your writing. And those are the examples, and then this is the little exercise. They're going to give you 3 questions here where you're just going to take statements that are simple sentences and turn them into better simple sentences or complex or compound sentences. And again, you can click for possible answers here, but keep in mind that there isn't one correct answer for each one of these. You can come up with a variety of different ways to write these sentences. And then lastly, again, if you want extra practice, there's an interactive activity that's going to go over how to combine sentences again, and so you can take a look at that as well too. Okay, so I'm running a little long in this video here, so I think I'm going to stop the video here, and then I'll do a part 2, which is going to go over interviews and body language, which is the second and third part of the content.